with Ed. Today we're going to talk about ankle sprains, and the most common question I get is, should I go and get my ankle x-rayed because I think I may have broken it? It's a pretty bad sprain. So let's first talk about ankle sprains a little bit first, okay? First of all, the thing to remember is that most ankle sprains are inversion sprains, okay? Which means the bottom of the foot, hey babe, come here. There you go. This is Romeo. Hey, sit down. Okay, most ankle sprains occur with an inversion sprain, which means the bottom of the foot turns in. The reason is that we don't have as much support on the medial part of the foot. If you look at the medial malleolus, it does not come down as far as the lateral malleolus does. Okay, so what that does is it prevents the foot from turning out because you have a bone that hits the bone. Okay. Next thing to remember is that only about 15% of all ankle sprains actually involve a fracture. Okay, so first of all, you have a pretty low probability that you've suffered a fracture during your ankle sprain. However, I'm going to give you some red flags to look for, okay? The first red flag is the inability to put any weight on the ankle right after it happens, okay? It's so painful. Some ankle sprains you can kind of walk off a little bit, others you can't, okay? So if you can't walk this off, if there's a significant amount of pain and, okay, you have point tenderness at any of these spots that I'm just going to tell you, okay? The first spot on the lateral part of the ankle is the lower part of this fibula right through here and come all the way down to the tip of this lateral malleolus, okay? That's the first area you're going to check for pinpoint tenderness, okay? Same, staying on the outside of the foot, you're going to check the base of the fifth metatarsal. Go along the edge of the fifth toe, you'll feel a bump right there. Put a little pressure on there. If they come off the table, okay, that's another positive sign, okay? So that's on the outside of the foot. On the inside of the foot, same thing. You're going to palpate that medial malleolus. So come along the posterior edge, okay, palpate that bone, come down to the tip, see if that's really tender, okay? If that's really tender, then you may have a fracture, okay? And also the navicular, okay? And that's on the inside arch through here. You can twist the foot just a little bit and you'll feel a little bump that pops out, okay? So if any of those bony landmarks are tender, navicular, medial malleolus, base of the fifth, or the lateral malleolus, and they can't bear any weight on the foot, I would definitely take them to the ER to get an x-ray, okay, because they may have a fracture. If not, and they're able to bear some weight and they're not particularly tender in those areas, then go ahead and go right into your RICE, which is your rest, ice, compression, and elevation, okay? You want to try to get rid of the swelling as soon as you can, put some ice on there, elevate it, start doing some ankle pumps. Another video will get into how to treat a basic ankle sprain, okay? But the big thing is to determine whether or not you feel like it's fractured, because it does change the rehab, okay? So, if you liked the video, found it helpful, give it a thumbs up. If you got a question, leave it below in the comments. And until the next video, take care, we'll see you.